Welcome to Bodybuilding Unplugged,
the new podcast keeping you up to date and behind the scenes for the competitive season and beyond.
with your hosts, director and head coach of Team Poser with Hannah and competitive natural bodybuilder, Hannah Mitchell.
And DFAC Pro and multi-time British figure champion, Zena Al-Kalabi.
Tune in and let us know what you think.
Hello and welcome back to episode 12 already of Bodybuilding Unplugged. And in this episode, Hannah and I are going to dive into, do you choose your category or do you... Oh, start again.
We're keeping it.
No.
Yeah, we are.
No.
Do you choose your category?
Fine, Hannah won't let me start again. Right. Do you choose your category or does your category choose you? It's so early. I think I need another coffee. But yeah, anyway, so we are going to basically just talk about kind of whether or not you can genuinely choose your category or whether or not, your structural bias puts you in a certain category, essentially. So before we start, Hannah, how are you doing?
I mean, I'm great now.
Thanks for that.
That is really tickles me. Like, I actually don't think I'm gonna stop.
Oh, wow.
No,
Keeping
I'm
it
good,
real, unfiltered.
No, I am good, thanks. It's been like weird week. Like lots of things like happening with like life and work and all sorts, and went to like something new yesterday actually, which
Ooh.
like pushed myself out my comfort zone and
Are you gonna
went to
shout?
this, I went to this like women in business event.
Ooh, nice.
Right?
Yeah, that's really cool.
And I've never been to anything like it before, but it was in Birmingham, and I was like, I just do it because at the end of the day, when you are a one-woman band, right?
Yeah.
I was like, it would be quite cool to be able to have like little conversations with other people and share this, and I took away so
That's
much.
so good.
And
Nice.
yeah, it was really cool. Strangely, like it was non-bodybuilding related,
That's so good
and
though.
yeah, and strangely, the organizer of the event knew who I was.
It's mad. That's so cool.
Like it was mad. So yeah,
good.
it's gonna lead to some great things anyway, even like personal growth, if
Yeah.
anything. So, but yeah,
Ooh.
you've got some big news which we are not gonna tiptoe over. How's your week been, Zena?
Yeah, good. Do you know what? I actually didn't know they were going to announce MBW this week, so that was a nice little surprise. In the morning, they just messaged and was like, "We're announcing today," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So yeah, it's kind of like a little secret I've had for like it's been killing me, but yeah, for the last kind of month or so, and yeah, I'm just honestly super grateful. So for like listeners that haven't been kind of on Instagram. I'm now with MBW, which is so exciting.
Well, this is actually the perfect opportunity. Why don't you, for people who don't know about MBW, right? They may know the page, but they
Yeah,
might not know what it's all about because it's so much more. So why
yeah,
don't you do a little bit of a not like an advert, but like a little bit of a
plug.
spiel?
Yes.
What's MBW all about?
So I guess like in like short, like MBW is basically just a platform for natural bodybuilding, but I think the goal of MBW is encompassing like the whole of natural bodybuilding. There does not kind of like this federation or this federation, and it's not just kind of like one way of doing things. I think like the whole kind of aim of it is just to show what natural bodybuilding is about and like help everybody understand it a bit better. So the main kind of platform is obviously Instagram and the MBW site, which has it's a member site which you sign up to, which has so much content, loads of videos, forums from like the athletes and things like that. And yeah, it just kind of shows how much it's grown, and it's so exciting, and it's like just so grateful and like honored to be a part of it, really. So yeah, I mean, if anybody hasn't signed up, then you should sign up because you can watch my video and read my log, and yeah, just more cheeky
Zena
plug.
10. I'm joking. That's not actually a thing.
That's right, Team 10. No, you don't get discount. Sorry, it's cheap.
Yeah, it is, to be fair. And you do get, especially like what's great is regardless of the point of your journey, like you get so much from it, right?
Yeah,
But I actually was speaking to a lady messaged me the other day regarding that she can't afford like a coach or anything and like what to do. And I was like, yo, YouTube is going to be your best friend, number
yeah,
one. However, that being said, there's going to be quite a bit of misinformation that you're going to have to dodge. So I was like,
yeah,
if you can afford to get on a forum,
yeah,
get on this. And I like sent her the link across because you know that the information there, I'm not going to say it's all true, but it's going to be quite,
yeah,
anecdotal, yes, for one, but then the facts are going to be facts. So
yeah.
it's gonna be a great opportunity for her. But yeah, very well done. Congratulations. All of
Thank
the
you.
above. It is
Thank
so
you.
deserved. And the video as well. I think I watched it about 10 times. I was just
Oh,
like,
I
it was
know.
so
To be
sick.
fair, shout out to
Ben did
Ben
good.
because
Yeah.
he absolutely smashed it. Like I went
Yeah.
there, I turned up with nothing. I just tried to look pretty, and he was like, "We're doing this, 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 this." I was like,
Oh,
"Okay."
I love that. That
Yeah,
is
he
so
planned
cool.
all of it, and I was just there,
Yeah.
like I was like, "I'll just turn up," and he was like, "I'm just such a princess."
Okay. I'll just train hard,
Yeah,
motherfucker.
I was like, "I'll just train. I can do that."
Amazing. Yeah. Right. So we're going to dive straight in, like we
Yeah,
mentioned, with do you choose your category? Does your category choose you? Now, we are going to be speaking across multiple federations, multiple categories here, because there is a difference. And it's something that I spend probably 75% of my days talking about
yeah,
because it is very important. Again, regardless if it's someone's first posing lesson or whether they're going into a new season, because you would have built additional tissue, your structure does matter, but
hmm,
you can be too big for certain categories as well within
yeah.
certain federations. So we're going to try and break it down.
Yeah, somehow.
As,
It's going to be
as
difficult. It's probably, yeah, it's probably going to be pretty like wishy washy because I think everything overlaps with each other in certain ways,
get
doesn't
your
it? But
notebook.
I guess if we just kind of like give like an overview and then go as it takes us, really.
Yeah. I think perfect place to start will be natural bikini. And
Yeah,
we are going to, when we say like natural, again, we've got absolutely no issue with people using assistance, but there is going to be a big difference between a natural bikini presentation and say a PCA or an NPC bikini presentation. So we are going to speak about little things between the federations, like I mentioned as well. So I guess what's going to be great is you're going to have input from BMBF too, from that side of the table, and I'll have input regarding seeing
yeah,
how my clients fare within shows too,
yeah.
because there has been anomalies. Yeah, nailed that.
You did.
Within the season, pure great example, and I know she won't mind me speaking about it. Sarah Wilson, hard as fuck, like
Yeah,
hard as nails, so peeled, so dense, so muscly.
yeah,
I was not expecting her to potentially do as well in UK the FBA because of that reason.
yeah.
Because typically UK the FBA bikini presentation is quite like
Soft.
petite,
Yeah,
soft,
flowy.
you just, yeah, like that is where the genetics come into play.
Yeah.
The waist is just non-existent.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. So I think kind of like with I think people that are new to bodybuilding, which I guess potentially will be kind of more kind of like targeting this podcast, because
Yeah.
if you've been a competitor, you kind of already know where you fit and things like that. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes with like bodybuilding, like people that are new to the sport almost feel like bikini is like the entry level category almost. And
Yes.
I think like a lot of people will be like, okay, I'm going to try this sport, so I'm going to start at like the lowest category. But it really isn't that. And I really kind of hate
No.
that. And I
Yeah.
think I'm kind of passionate about hating it because that was me. I
Yeah,
thought when I was like,
same.
right, yeah, yeah. And I think it was everyone, when I thought I was going to compete, I was like, okay, right, I'm just going to go for junior bikini and then see where I fit. And, don't get me wrong, I think potentially probably definitely as we are in 2024, most people that will be doing kind of their first show potentially will be suited to bikini, because I think a lot of people are competing with like a lower training age. And
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, some of them won't fit in that category, which obviously we're going to talk about. But I think there's a lot more people going into bodybuilding with less training behind them, which
yeah,
naturally potentially would see them fit into bikini from a muscle perspective. But I
yeah,
think from like a genetic perspective, if you're somebody, for example, like myself, when I first went into kind of posing and things like that, I just stood out like a sore thumb when I tried to do
yeah,
bikini poses because of the width to my back and like the shape of my quads and everything like that. And I would
yeah.
never have been a good bikini athlete, regardless of how much muscle I had.
Yes. Yeah. I think, you know what? I am so glad you even started with that, because the I would say as well, like the amount of slack that bikini girls
Yeah,
get with like, oh, you're just a bikini girl. Bro, like some of them, like I
insane.
again we'll speak through obviously the levels to it, but I was even watching Kerry's like Olympia video.
I'm mad.
She's got about 20 times more tissue than me. Like,
Yeah.
and, and obviously, yes, it is someone at that elite level pro going to the Olympia, but
Mm-hmm.
the amount of times that you used to hear back in the day of like, oh, just a
Just,
bikini girl, like
yeah.
just bikini,
It's
like
just a
it's
bikini.
so no, they have so much tissue. So yeah, that is such a good point, and I think that's sometimes what I do say to people as well. If you are unsure, have a lesson in both,
Yeah.
or have one lesson and half of it in bikini, half of it in figure. Now, there are going to be some athletes that do fit both
Yeah.
at a certain point, and I do
Mm-hmm.
call them like little hybrids, right? Um little hybrid athletes.
Hybrid athlete.
Yeah, but when it does come to bikini, the kind of clear things that I do look for are having that flow from the waist into like the glute into the delt,
Yeah.
right? Now the other thing to consider if you are starting looking into categories and posing, and you are maybe peak off season, where you lose body fat.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because for me, the reason why I couldn't do bikini, which is why I ended up changing category, 6 weeks out from that show, the first show, when I thought I was going to be bikini, my I have no no fat on my ass, which is like not a positive,
Yeah.
because they don't look full, right? And
Hmm.
then I get very lean quads, which
Yeah.
again, so where you hold your body fat
Yeah.
in a positive way is what is also potentially going to make you lean towards one category or the other.
Yeah.
So
No.
for
And
you, Z, you're like you mentioned about your quads,
yeah, like they
right?
just exactly. And I'm also like, I don't actually have like as much muscle in like my glutes and things, but I think that's such a good point in terms of like body fat, because a lot of people, when they kind of come into like looking into bodybuilding, they would have never ever have been stage lean, and like you shouldn't
Mm,
have been stage lean before. And I think, when you are kind of like, oh, I don't know what category I fit in, almost it's okay not to know until you kind of get down to those levels of body fat, because some girls
yes.
may hold all of their fat in their legs and think, oh, I'm definitely wellness. But then by the time,
Yeah,
by the time they're actually lean, they're barely big enough for bikini on the lower half. And that's not
yeah,
a bad thing. It's just, if you do hold fat in those areas and, you get stage lean and you think, oh, actually, I'm not as kind of clear cut to that category as I was when I was plus 40 pounds. It's kind of like,
yeah,
it's okay to then realize that. And like you
yes.
probably would have only realized that when you came down to a certain level of body fat and seen, okay, actually, I'm a lot more suited like this when I'm lean, which again is you only really know by getting there.
Yeah. I completely agree there, yeah. And I think with the wellness side of things, again, we do see that quite a lot. I will typically say to people, have you got any kind of photos from a photo shoot you did or something like that? And that can also be a really good guide. And then people
Yeah,
will be like, oh yeah, but I've grown since. Yeah, mate, but you wouldn't have grown that much. Like,
yeah,
no, sorry. I'm sorry
yeah,
to burst your bubble, but you wouldn't have gone from bikini to wellness in like 3 months.
No.
Yeah, like it's again, it's quite underestimated.
Yeah.
Um, before we do shimmy into wellness, because that'll be a great little segue, just speaking across maybe a couple of federations there. So like we mentioned, UKDFBA has got more of a like maybe petite, a little bit softer look.
Mm-hmm.
But then obviously you go into like PCA
Yeah.
and like
Hard.
sometimes
Lean.
junior bikini is very similar, I would say,
Yeah.
which I'm here for,
Yeah.
because you've the muscle maturity, like you mentioned, with the training age and everything like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
you potentially not actually able to get that hard anyway, and it's about that kind of flow and shape to the look.
Yeah.
But then as you get into standard bikini, let alone train bikini,
Yeah. It's
hard,
crazy. Yeah,
peeled,
exactly. Hard,
full.
peeled, full. But then obviously, that also I think probably like portrays a lot of them would be assisted too. So, that like harder look is almost not easier to achieve, but it's you're not your gut it is easier to achieve. Like,
I was like, well, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think potentially, UKFBA initially was a kind of softer bikini look, potentially because they never really saw hard bikini athletes. But I think
Yeah,
as time is going on and people like Sarah, like you've said, that show what actually you can get hard, dry, and full as a natural bikini athlete. I think potentially it may start moving in that direction, and I'm so here for that because I actually don't really like the soft bikini look. I think do
I
you know
don't.
what? Like, why should they come in softer? It's not any less of a category. Like, it's
Yes.
not, it's not a soft figure. It's literally like bikini is bikini, and for me, I think Sarah is a perfect representation of that. So I'm hoping it'll start to change, maybe next year and things.
Yeah. I think what might be a good little comparison, actually, we did pre-warn that this might be a little bit jit-jotty around the shop. What would you say is maybe the difference between a trained bikini athlete and toned figure?
For PCA.
Yeah.
So I struggle with this more than Hannah does, obviously because it's Hannah's job and not mine. So for me, like I actually think there's quite a big kind of anytime I see like a trained bikini winner, in my head I'm like, ooh, I'd love to see you in figure because I think they are very similar to a certain extent, but I think kind of
Mhm.
for trained bikini me, it's kind of like more exacerbated like waist to delt ratio, slightly
Mhm.
potentially kind of bigger glutes, not so kind of like sweepy quads, but then
Yeah.
like I don't know, like I think there are definitely any trained bikini athlete could hold their own in figure, in my opinion. But then
Yeah.
it's kind of like, where are they best?
Exactly, mate. You say like you just said, "Oh, I don't know this." Like that is to a T. That is
Yeah.
perfect because I think it's also what they love,
Yeah.
right? Because when I say some girls, you even mention figure to them, and they're like,
No, yeah, they're like, no, don't
no,
want that. There was actually
yeah,
a girl. I'm not good to name names, but I watched her at one of the UKFBA shows this year. She did bikini, and I've never done this before, but I messaged and I was like, I really think you'd be really great in figure. She says, I don't want to, like, I don't like the catch weight. And I was like, fair. I was
yeah,
like, you would be
exactly.
great, but she was like, but I don't like it, and I was like, okay, well, fine. I guess in that case, you choose your category, don't you? Your category doesn't
Yeah,
choose you, but I guess that is
yeah,
also a part we'll come onto of just purely enjoyment, isn't it? Like you said, some people just don't enjoy the poses, the presentation. They don't like figure or they don't like bikini, so they're like, you know what? Maybe I won't be the best, but I'm happy here.
yeah. Exactly that. And I think the main difference that I would, if I'm trying to make it as black and white as possible, the main difference that I would say is the focus for a train bikini compared to toned figure. It would be more delt instead of like lower lat, right?
Yeah,
Like you still want the X frame, but it would be like that distinctive cap instead
yeah,
of the sweep into it.
yeah,
And then similarly to what you just mentioned about focus on the glute instead of the quad.
Yeah.
Because if you imagine, like, yes, you want a nice quad sweep, right? But it's nowhere near the same level of density that you would be looking for in figure. And again, in figure, not particularly, yes, you want a nice shaped glute, but you want the shape for bikini really going out
Yeah.
into that glute. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
Cool.
that's, yeah, very, very good. Okay, so wellness. Well, yes.
Well, yes. So, I mean, I think obviously, most
It's
listeners
quite an
will
easy
know.
one.
Huh?
We'll be able to. It's quite an easy, distinctive one here. Like, we'll
Yeah.
be able to
Do you know what? And
wrap
I
this
do
up.
think, even though it is getting better, there are still a lot of people in the wrong category. Like, ultimately, like, I'm here for the fact that wellness is very favorable for a female. You want that, like,
Oh,
big legs, big ass, big
stunning.
everything. But, like,
Yeah.
ultimately, you need a bigger legs than you do upper. And I think a lot of people are still very much, like, balanced. And if you're
Mhm.
balanced, you're not wellness yet, you
Yeah.
know? Um,
I do. I used to. I used to struggle with upsetting people,
yeah,
with telling them that it's not the right category, but through progressing the business, realizing that, you know what, it
that's your
is my
job,
job. Like, I if they go elsewhere because they're kind of
but hurt.
upset about my opinion,
Yeah,
then I have done my job,
yeah,
of telling them what they're going to be best in. That
yeah.
being said, I will always say, like, at the end of the day, it's you and your coach's decision what you want to put yourself in. I will
Hmm.
teach you to present the best that you can.
Yeah,
However, if you're not wellness, I will tell you that you're not wellness.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
I think too many
Someone
people do
needs
blow.
to.
Yeah, too many people blow smoke.
Yeah,
And they're like, "Oh my god, yeah, you're doing wellness." No, but
no,
are you though?
no,
Are you
exactly.
wellness? Are you going to get up on stage, and is your feedback going to be do bikini? Then you've
Yeah,
wasted potentially getting on stage.
yeah, no, for sure. And I
Um,
think, again, this comes back to when we were talking about like where you hold body fat. Because I think the problem with
mm,
wellness is a lot of females will naturally hold body fat in their lower half anyway. So don't get me wrong, we've all had a bit of our off season where we're like, oh, am I wellness? But like ultimately, when
have we all?
yeah, I have.
I haven't.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I could be wellness, and then I lose body fat, and I'm like fucking not even. I'm like 2D from the side. I'm like, oh yeah, no, 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 no.
Mate, I turn to the side now, and I'm like, why am I still 2D? No, carry on. This is not about me.
Oh, so everyone apart from Hannah has had their wellness moment. But yeah, I think the problem is when you lose that body fat, like ultimately you're probably not as big on the lower half as you think you are, and then it's
Mhm.
kind of just like I think between wellness and bikini, it could definitely be like you can choose your category over your category chooses you, but it's going to be
Yes.
difficult because ultimately
Uh-huh.
you can disproportionately grow your lower, but like you have to enjoy leg training. You have to enjoy that kind
Yeah.
of, potentially not training your upper for a long time. And for me, I would never. Like I fucking love upper. I hate legs. So it's like
I would rather go into like mixed disability category and have a wheelchair, because I would rather never pose my legs again, because I would much
honestly,
rather just like do a
yeah.
front.
Do you reckon they do like a reverse wellness category and we could just train Dorito category?
Oh my god.
It's basically men's physique. Oh
I'm
no.
actually I'm waiting, right, when this whole equality business comes in, when we get women's, right, we do have women's physique, but you know what I mean.
What
Women's
could it
men's
be?
physique.
Yeah, because
It'll have to be like WMP.
yeah, women's or like women's tomboy.
And then women's classic. When these come in, you guys ain't ready, right? Me and Zena are winning everything.
Yeah. Oh my god, imagine.
I'm actually
God.
crying.
Oh Christ.
I've lost my train of thought.
So yeah, I mean, wellness
Oh yeah,
is
wellness.
disproportionately big legs, and if you're balanced right now, you're not wellness.
And the other thing is, like, what you've just said there is really, really important. Like, yes, you can potentially train to hit that. Then there are certain people that are going to have the genetic advantage, right?
Yeah,
Like, again, like Latino kind of, or that kind of area
yeah,
where they do naturally build their lower half so well.
yeah,
Um and so they are going to be more able to grow their lower half. Obviously they still have to put the work in, but
yeah.
it's just down to the fact that, are you able to put on enough mass within your set amount of time frame that you are
Hmm.
wanting to compete? Because
Yeah,
that's the other side of things. Like, are you wanting to step on stage within the next year, or are you like, oh, I'll step on stage in the next 10 years? Like,
yeah,
is it that you want to tick it off and that's that, or are you like, this is the goal and I will wait as long as possible, as long as I need to, sorry,
yeah,
to get to that goal? So
yeah.
there's that side to think about as well,
And I
really.
also think, like, in kind of relation to what you're saying, like, if you are an assisted athlete, you almost have more potential to be able to kind of change category because you
Mm,
almost have assistance for that growth. But if
mm,
you're like a natural athlete in bikini and you want to be wellness, but you're not genetically kind of, you're not like, your genetics are not for like lower half growth, it will take you probably 10 years to get to a stage where you're actually kind of then lower dominant to the point of being competitive. So it's like, if you're like a bikini athlete, natural, and you're like, I want to be like a pro wellness athlete, like you have to go assisted, and
yeah.
it's one of those where it's like you can't be under an illusion that you can just train your legs hard for 2 years and then be wellness, because it just doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, again, I guess you can probably change your category more easily with assistance. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so. The only thing that I would then almost caveat to that is, this is going to be such a long podcast. um, is only because then when adding assistance, be mindful of what assistance. Now, the reason I say that, say you are using certain compounds that are going to potentially like lead to virilization, and I'm not talking about like bad virilization where it's like mad facial hair, etc. I'm even just thinking about trap dominance, etc. If you're using compounds that are going to lead to like the receptors in your upper body to grow when
Yeah,
you're probably doing one session a week maybe of upper body, that then is going to mean that you're not going to fit that criteria.
yeah,
And unfortunately, I'm going to say it, I feel like a lot of females wanted to go into wellness when in and into assistance started using compounds such as maybe like Primo and Test, right? And their upper body has blown up. So
yeah,
now they don't have that small, petite, feminine
yeah,
upper body, and their upper body is jacked.
yeah.
And yes, their lower body is dominant, but
Hmm.
it's not now a feminine look, which is wellness. Like,
Yeah,
wellness still needs to have the femininity. So
for
you
sure.
do need to be careful
Yeah,
about the compounds that you are going to use, and
yeah,
not just be like, oh, I want to grow as much as possible,
yeah.
you
No,
know?
for sure. No, I agree.
Sorry, get a bit
No,
excited.
I completely agree.
Um,
And we've seen it. Like, we've seen people that are like, I think we're probably thinking of the same person, but like that have kind of gone into like, okay, I want to be wellness. And then have almost, assistance has now led them into, okay, right, a fit figure. So
yeah.
it's like, and don't get me wrong, like the person that I imagine Hannah's thinking about as well is absolutely incredible for figure, but it's potentially not the category that they wanted to do to start with. But again, I guess then that's when your category does. And I think in the end, it always ends up picking you, honestly, one way or
Yeah,
another.
yeah, yeah. And as not great as that sounds, because obviously if you've got that wellness dream, then
Yeah,
it's not gonna. And to
yeah.
be fair, I've got like 4 people in my head. So,
Gosh. Yeah, you know more people than me.
um, but and
Cool.
again, it's like it's absolutely no like discredit to the work that they're putting in, but it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
So now moving on to figure,
Mm-hmm.
because that's
Okay.
that's going to lead very well.
Yeah.
So natural figure,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, you're a champion in multiple federations. So
Yeah.
what maybe presentation would you say is your favorite and why? Oh.
Wait, as in like what
So
do you mean?
because of having to do multiple
Yeah.
federations
Yeah.
and being a champion in multiple federations,
Yeah.
right? You would have had to bring a different look to
Yeah.
those.
Okay, I'm
What
with you.
would be your favorite and
So
why?
I think
And what did you have to do maybe? Like what look did you have
yeah,
to do?
no, definitely. So I think for me, like, I obviously I have really kind of wide clavicles. I have a wide back and like a really nice kind of like taper in. I don't have the smallest waist, but I think the fact that like I have quite big quads makes it kind of look like it is smaller than it actually is, which is obviously a benefit. And I think for me, even though kind of last year like it wasn't the show that I won, I think my best look is for UKDFBA figure. And the only reason I say that is because even though BMBF, I absolutely love it. Obviously, I love the federation and I love everything about it. But for figure in BMBF, you are also then doing kind of like muscularity poses. So things like front double bicep and side pose and back double bicep. And I think those poses are where kind of other people will potentially kind of like overtake, because you're not just looking at your simple shape and structure, you're then also kind of getting compared on like muscularity through kind of so many different areas. And like you even tell me like don't just do your figure poses because you see so much more in every other pose. But I think for me, when you take like your 4 quarter turns, I kind of like really stand out for X, Y, and Z reasons. But then
A figure, yeah.
when you add in other poses, like I don't have very big biceps, like I don't have abs and things like that. So it's kind of like when you kind of then add more poses into the mix, I think other people get way more of a look in, which, then
Mm.
it's kind of like, oh God, like I need to kind of build up those areas to be kind of more competitive in that sense. So yeah, I
I
felt
love that. And you know what? Weirdly enough, I think I said before we started the podcast, don't even know now. I actually sent your photo when I was having the discussion regarding, last night, late last
yeah,
night, regarding like figure physique. I sent your UKDFBA photo. I didn't send your BMBF one.
yeah,
And even though you didn't like, yeah, I think you was it third?
yeah,
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, even placing say like third, I was like, but this is like the figure kind of look. And
yeah,
like you mentioned about the waist, because you do have the quad sweep, I call it a sweep from the waist into the lats anyway, because
yeah,
it's like a whoosh.
yeah,
Um yeah, I completely agree. Like you don't necessarily genetically have that tiny waist, but you make it look like that. So
yeah,
that's what's important. And I think that's something for anyone to take away, because you might not have the smallest waist, but you can do little things. You can build certain areas to make those proportions, ratios look like that. What was
I have
that?
no idea. So for
God,
Spotify
God.
listeners, Ethan just creeped in the background. I don't know what he was doing. Sorry, Hannah, I could just hear him coming.
I was like staring at the corner thinking like, is Zena about to get taken?
Is there a ghost? Right, sorry,
Is there
back to what
a
you're saying.
yeah, basically just about the fact that you can build around like not necessarily having the genetic predisposition of like like the smaller waist. You can build within figure,
Yeah,
which is really important to remember. However, you can then stand on stage next to someone, and it's important to remember this as well. You can stand on stage and you could have done all the work and you could have got like massive lats, massive legs, but if someone has got the tiny waist, then they might win. And that's the
exactly.
way the cookie crumbles.
Exactly. So I think like takeaway from this is like figure, I think out of all of the categories, like unfortunately, if you don't have the genetics for kind of not even if you don't have the structure of your body in a certain way, like unfortunately, I don't think you will ever be the best figure athlete. And like I feel bad saying that because it's kind of like
You
some people's
shouldn't.
dreams will be crushed. But like if you don't have wide clavicles, like you will never ever be the best ever figure athlete because you physically can't grow your clavicles. You know, like like
GH to the clavicles.
you can't get clavicle transplant. You know, and it's like you can grow as much as you want, but like you can't then you can't physically change the way your body is made, like your actual bones. So it's kind of like, you know, it's really hard. But I think a lot of people who are like love the figure category, but like they don't have the structure for it. I don't think that's a category for you, even if you love it, unless you're
Yeah,
happy, kind of, and you know in your brain like that's why you're gonna sit in it.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is so
And
much savage.
no, I'm smiling simply because this is where the figure category, I swear by this, it is the hardest category. I know some people would argue bikini. Bikini
Mhm.
has its difficulties across multiple federations. It's such a different look, and the judging can change, etc., especially NPC. Like
Yeah,
we see that show to show to show, right?
yeah.
That being said, figure itself, if you do put the winners from UKDFBA, BMBF, NPC, PCA, if you put those winners next to each other, they are not the same.
Mhm.
So when I say that figure is probably the most difficult category to maybe do across multiple federations, at the same time, it almost then gives opportunity.
Yeah.
So, opportunity for you to find the federation that maybe you prefer your look, but
Mhm.
also the federation that likes your look.
Yeah.
Um, Pure example. Again, we just like use you as an example there. That was your favorite look, but not necessarily like a winning look, right?
Mhm.
I was discussing my UKDFBA figure look, and because of the weight, the kind of body fat that levels that I had to have to come in for that category, my waist is the last thing, not last thing. My waist drastically changes with body fat
Yeah.
percentage. I'm on about both ways, going
Yeah.
up, coming down.
Yeah.
And because of that, that 5 kilo, to be fair, was, even though the condition in my quads and top line was obviously different, my waist was significantly larger.
Yeah.
So seeing me on stage with a higher body fat percentage to fit the UKDFBA criteria in terms of conditioning,
Yeah.
that made me look very blocky to then make me then look like I should be in physique.
Yeah.
Then when I then lose, so this is why, and I'm okay about it. I am so okay about it. I know that I'm in such a between a rock and a hard place,
Yeah.
because I then lose that body fat to bring the condition in for physique or whatever. I then lose the blockiness and I get the figure shape.
Yeah. So then you're almost too conditioned for like natty figure then. So it's like
Yeah.
there's no winning for you. And like unfortunately, like
Well,
you know, when you do lose that, like I completely see it. Like you are an X, but then it's almost like you're an X, but you're fucking lean. So it's like
yeah.
so then it's kind of like in the natural federations, figure is kind of like, oh, you know, she's pushing on too conditioned. But then in an NPC, you get kind of rewarded for that, which is why you kind of fit better there, which is unfortunate, obviously, because then you're kind of
Well,
fitting in a federation that's almost like expected people to be assisted in.
yeah, even if you guys don't know, even in the natural NPC, the rule is 3 years. And I even messaged someone regarding the winners of the NPC. I'll say it, I don't even care. Some of the winners that were even on the NPC stage this year were not even 3 years clean. So
Yeah.
there's no way for you to know that, because they do the blood tests and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, if your blood tests are clean, then that you pass the
You're
end,
natural.
right?
Woo!
You're natural, yeah. No, so but very interesting you say that, because don't know if I mentioned this. Sorry if I did. Bumped into Zach Fotheringham at Shreds when I was
Hmm.
doing face to faces at Shreds, obviously. And I was like, can you have a little look over? Like,
Yeah.
let me know your thoughts, right? He's obviously got, well, don't know if he still coaches, like Meg and Claire. Obviously, physiques that I adore, like that
Yeah.
inspire me. They get peeled, like, Claire, like, what? Mad. Anyway.
Yeah.
And he was like, Hannah, your NPC figure. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I know.
I know.
I was like, ah. He was like, you've got too much shape for
Yeah.
physique. I was like, I know.
It's so, yeah, you're unlucky, mate.
Lucky, mate.
Honestly, like, yeah. So, I mean, I guess, like, the moral of that is, unfortunately, sometimes your federation also chooses you, like you said, like,
Uh-huh.
you can be perfect for, like, one type of federation, but then not for the next. And we see it all the time, you can win one show and then not win another, or not even get a look in at another. And, I
Mhm.
actually think as well, I guess it'd be a good time to talk about it, is right now in, like, natural federations, particularly like UKFBA, the look for an amateur figure is very different for a pro figure. And what we saw this year
Yeah.
was some girls in amateur figure that didn't even get a look in, but then they would probably win pro figure. And I've had lots of conversations about this with certain people because it bothers me that, in my
I
opinion,
hate it so
in
much.
my opinion, but if you have an amateur lineup, the winner should be of a pro standard, in the sense of they should then be able to step on a pro stage and be
Yeah.
competitive. Yet, certain people at amateur shows this year that I've seen didn't get a look in because they were almost too hard or like
Yeah.
too good. But then that only ever happens in figure. Like, you wouldn't see like fucking David Kay go to an amateur bodybuilding show and not win because he's too good.
Too good.
So why are we seeing it in
Honestly.
figure?
Tell it again.
You
Say
see,
it
I'm
again.
passionate about this because it bothers
Tell it
me.
all.
I'll
It
tell
really
everyone.
bothers me. So, like, honestly, the amount of times that I've watched, say, for example, like WNBF Worlds, right? I don't know. I don't know if you saw. Oh my god, the name has just like literally this second just fallen out my head. Anyway, she's absolutely incredible, and she's figure for, I believe, WNBF Worlds last year, but it could have even been the year before. Like, I follow her that kind of hard. Anyway, absolutely fantastic. I look at her physique and I see almost like, and I'm not doing this to like lick my own ass. I'm like, I could see myself getting to that.
Yeah.
We're very similar in the fact, like, we can look at our physiques very subjectively,
Mm-hmm.
and we could be like, right, genuinely, realistically, what could I achieve? Like,
Yeah.
where am I going to go if I grow more, if I get in more condition, da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at her physique and I was like, I could see myself presenting quite well in that level of musculature and that level of condition. And
Yeah.
it was figure,
Yeah.
and it was very on par with NPC.
Yeah.
But then WMBF, like any regional, anyone with that level of muscle, they would be like, oh no, 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 you've got to go into fit body there.
It just doesn't make
And
sense.
it fucking
Because
bothers
the thing
me.
is like, in my opinion, like, figure isn't a small physique, or figure isn't like a less muscle version of physique. They are completely different categories. And
They're
like,
so
it
different.
it frustrates me so much that you're too muscly for figure, and you should then just go and get completely peeled and be physique, because it's not the same. Like,
It's
it's just
not.
not the same look.
It's
And
like, it for me, when I think about figure, I'm like, the shape, like, it's just clear as day. And I
mm-hmm,
then think of physique and I think about literally your waist and hips are the same.
yeah,
Like, you are literally
you're
like
like
a
compact.
rectangle block.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
compact. Like,
Yeah.
for example, like Nick, who is obviously like top of women's physique
Yes.
game now. I compare anyone
Oh,
to that in the sense that,
shout out.
yeah, like, she still has shape, but it's not like a giant X. She's not going to stand on
No.
stage and she would never kind of win figure, because she's not figure, she's physique. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's that kind of like very like almost just like compact dense muscle that gets really shredded, and that is
Yeah.
not the same as pro figure. And
Mhm,
I think,
mhm.
all of the time we see crossovers, and like I don't understand how like somebody wins pro figure and wins pro physique in the same show.
No, mate, this happened this year, and yes, someone won pro figure, pro physique,
Pro bodybuilding.
and they are not the same category, let alone the same conditioning, let alone anything. And it
No.
literally sent me west. I think I lobbed my phone. I was like, "You what? Give it to someone else."
Yeah, I know. It's one of those, and it's like I think I'm hoping it will change, but I like we only really like you don't see that in like NPC. Like the person that wins pro figure isn't winning pro physique because it's not the
Yes.
same.
And this is the thing, that's where I do respect NPC quite a lot in that sense. There is
Yeah,
such a clear definition and there's no crossover. I
yeah,
mean, take Eleanor for example,
yeah.
right? She said she was like, I am figure to a T, and they were like, no.
No, you're not.
And then
Yeah.
she went into women's physique, and they were like, no, you're
Exactly. And the
bodybuilding.
thing is BNBF are actually quite good for that as well. Like you are not two
Yes,
categories, and like
yeah,
you will not win both categories because you're not two categories, It's like I do think there are some crossovers at some points, and
yeah,
depending on obviously like standard of shows and things. I also don't agree with penalizing someone for doing two categories if they are genuinely the best out of the people on the day. But when we're
yeah.
talking about like pro level shows where there should be
Mhm.
a decent standard across the board, like there should be differences, It's different from
Especially
like
awarding
yeah, like
pro
it's different from
cards.
like a regional qualifier to pro world
Mhm,
show.
mhm, mhm,
But yeah, I mean, I guess sport is subjective, isn't it?
mhm. We say after having a
Sub-
20-minute rant.
Subjective.
Subjective though, isn't it?
It's subjective though, isn't
Um,
it?
hopefully that answered regarding like figure and physique, I
Yeah.
guess, to be fair. Just a small little summary, like yeah, physique, you do want to come in pretty much inside out, as peeled as men get, I'll be
Mhm.
honest.
Yeah.
If you want to do physique, don't think that it's just like, oh, a little bit extra off. No, 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 no,
No.
no. Like you want veins, lines
Yeah, like
everywhere.
paper cut death veins.
Yeah, like no fat anywhere. And I think sometimes, and we've spoken about. I love that people are wanting to branch into more categories, like especially bodybuilding, etc.
Yeah.
At the same time, just make sure you are kind of like, if you're gonna do, I don't know, I'm in two minds. If you're gonna do, say, like figure and physique, and you're expecting to say win both,
Mhm.
like it shouldn't be the case,
No.
right?
But then like
If you,
go on, finish.
I was just gonna say, like, if you are you aim for one category,
Yeah.
do another one for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't
Like
think that you're gonna win both
no. Like
because
when I did bodybuilding, like I knew I wasn't conditioned enough for bodybuilding, but that wasn't my
yes,
focus. Like
yes,
I came in perfect for figure. I did bodybuilding for fun with the knowledge that, do you know what, like I am not the right condition for bodybuilding, but I want to do it for
yeah,
fun, and that's okay. And
yeah.
and depending on who turns up on the day, I may be the best bodybuilder in that category, but
I'll
that
be
doesn't
honest.
mean I'm pro bodybuilding worthy level of an athlete because I'm not. And
Yeah,
I'm not under any illusion for that. And it's
yeah.
like, even though I can do it for fun, like I am not both categories. And, a lot of feedback was, you could be a really good bodybuilder in the future, but you're not there now. And I know that, and that's okay.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so yeah, it's kind of like going with the expectation of like pick the category that you think you're best suited to and aim for that. And if you
Yeah.
fall into another one for fun, then so be it.
Especially when it comes to the freedom of posing with, say, like UK, the FBA, you've only got your 4. WMBF, you do have the second round within figure, but still you can't do like any overhead shots.
Yeah.
Um, So especially if you want to do like more shots, have more fun, display your physique in different lights, then there's going to be different categories, different federations that are going to allow that. Like
Yeah.
you mentioned with the MBF, like for some people within figure, them starting doing bicep shots, etc., that might actually not work in their favor because
Hmm.
of one of two things. Number one, they might end up looking like absolutely fucking tiny, right?
Yeah.
Number two, they might actually look too muscular and then be
Yeah.
like, oh, actually, you might need to go into athletic there.
Yeah.
So, again, it's gonna work in both ways. But just a little kind of segue, finish off with this segment, bodybuilding.
Hmm.
I do think that, again, it's great seeing people going into bodybuilding and wanting to do it for fun and the
Hmm.
experience, like especially no shoes, like fuck yeah. um what would you say that people need to bring to be an
Yeah.
actual bodybuilder?
Yeah, so I think some people kind of, again, they think of the categories as like you go bikini to figure to physique to bodybuilding, or like,
Yeah.
bodybuilding is a more muscled physique. But I actually don't agree with that. I think for me, like women's bodybuilding is like a more muscled and lean figure than it is physique. So for me, women's
Ooh,
bodybuilding is kind
nice.
of still has like almost like a figure shape where they kind of
Mm,
have that kind of like taper, they have, big quads, things like that, but at a kind of like higher level of muscle, and then almost
mm.
like conditioning for women's physique to match that. So almost like a hybrid of physique and figure. I quite like a more
Oh,
like
really? Do you think that?
in certain aspects. You could against bodybuilding.
Maybe that's it. Maybe I'll just fuck
Yeah.
everything. I'll just go into
So I
bodybuilding.
think like a figure shape with physique conditioning, but overall more muscle.
Right.
And so yeah, maybe in the future.
Maybe in the future. Man,
What your
I'll be here in 10 years anyway, when let's be honest.
fuck's
We'll
sake.
still be here.
Masters?
um so I don't want to say I'm shocked at that.
Mm,
I like the sound of that.
yeah,
However, I picture a bodybuilder, I imagine a 5 foot brick,
yeah, yeah. Like
right?
a
Like,
stubby, just like a short, stocky.
yeah, like for me, yes, shape. I know what you mean by shape, but when I think of figure shape, I think of like so much difference between that like hip and the waist, and so much difference between the delt and the waist. Like I'm literally like
Mm-hmm.
bodybuilding. I do want a bit of shape, but because they're so compact, it's
Yeah,
like
less obvious.
it's less obvious,
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, the level of kind of muscularity, worlds apart from physique. I
yeah,
completely agree. Again, physique is almost like just separate.
yeah.
I just think it's so
It's
different.
different. Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
but yeah, bodybuilding, like you need muscle, and I think almost similar to wellness. I think what we are seeing sometimes nowadays is that people go into bodybuilding that aren't getting lean enough for even figure.
Yeah,
I'm not here for that. I'm
no,
sorry.
no.
Like
You have
either
to be
get
shredded.
fueled or don't get on stage. Like
Mm-hmm.
people are getting on, yeah, kind of choosing bodybuilding as like, oh, there's barely going to be anyone in the category and I just won't get lean and then
Yeah,
I'll get a
no.
trophy. And it's not the way it should be. So you need to come in absolutely like inside out shredded. But typically at the end of the day, you're probably going to be 40 plus to
Yeah,
be a very good
yeah.
bodybuilder.
Age is definitely a thing, and like mature muscle just
Oh,
looks different.
we should say natural bodybuilder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like that mature muscle just like it just sits different.
Mhm,
And we've
mhm.
seen definitely over the years
I
so
love it,
many.
man.
Huh?
Sorry, I just had a moment. I was like, oh, I love it, man.
I know, I know, same. Same. Right. I guess that kind of wraps up the females. Shall we kind of just like quickly dive through the men?
Do we? No, I'm joking. Course.
Well, it's for
Um,
us. We'll
no,
we'll
yeah.
try and wrap the men's 53 minutes on women, 7 minutes on men.
We
Oopsie.
love you, really.
It's actually really. I think the men's are definitely more
It's
clear
so much
cut.
easier.
They
I'm
are. Do
sorry,
you know
it's
what?
so much
Men
easier.
have everything easier. Like fucking hell. No, for real. Like it's even like we were just talking about with like the men's open bodybuilding. Like the
Go away, Ethan.
fuck off. He's not even here anyway. He's gone. He's gone somewhere. But I
Okay.
think with men, it's very like it's very clear cut, and I think across different federations, across natural, across assisted, it's all the
Yes.
same. Like it
Yes.
is all the same, you know. If you're a good men's bodybuilder, it doesn't matter if you're natural. It doesn't matter if you're UKDFBA. It doesn't matter if you're looking for the same things. So, men, you're piss easy.
Honestly, this is again was having this conversation last night, and it was literally you just come in as hard and as full as fucking possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Amen.
But one category that I think is worth talking about, which I see a lot of crossover, I guess, is the addition of classic. So, Hannah, do you
Right.
want to just talk through the difference between men's open and classic and when you think
Yes.
people should go in either or? Because the rest of them are kind of obvious, I think, but this is
Yeah.
where we're having a lot of issues lately.
Yeah. Honestly, 1,000%. And we're even seeing it in the pros. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no,
But
it's
like
true.
even assisted pros, people are like really trying to just go into classic because they think it's like a smaller bodybuilder,
Yeah,
and it's really not the case.
no.
It's almost like, and it's similar to wellness in the sense that it's a more to some.
Feminine?
I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with this, but some would say it's a more aesthetic kind of like more wanted look.
Mm-hmm.
So people are like saying that they're classic because they think it's like a sexy thing.
They just
When
want to be Chris
really,
Bumstead.
yeah, like they want to just be like, oh my God, yeah, I'm classic. No, you're not, bro. You're
No,
not.
you're not. You
You're
have no. You have a blocky waist. Like
Yeah. So, I mean, perfect. Yeah, perfect segue there. Like, at the end of the day, the classic kind of when you're looking at not even top of the game, even just a regional show, it isn't necessarily about size. So I know I just said about being a smaller bodybuilder, like it's not anything really about that, but you can say within the natural federations, size doesn't necessarily win.
mm-hmm.
Within maybe even looking at the Olympia lineup, like I don't know, there's obviously a lot more that we can dive into regarding that, but size doesn't necessarily win, but it's that bubble, it's that bubbly look,
Yeah,
right? Where even where the pants sit, right? You
yeah,
can just see where it's coming out through into the quad. The waist is tight, it's tiny, it's
yeah,
not blown out by drugs, it's not
yeah,
blown out by food, like vacuums, like it's important. And
yeah,
then the difference between going from there into those wide clavicles, man, like it's
yeah.
almost looks when you've got a good classic competitor. I always straight away just think of, Joe Richardson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like, yes, he's not a pro, but when I do think of classic, I do think of his physique because it's almost like their chest cavity is
yeah,
like pumped with air.
yeah.
You know
It's
what I
mad.
mean? It's like
Yeah,
massive. It's like his whole rib cage is like out here. But it's
yeah.
just because of the amount of tissue that he's like managed to
Mm-hmm.
grow, right? To
Yeah,
build. Um and yeah, again, it's not about, even with the posing, it's not about trying to make yourself as big as possible, take up
no,
as much space as possible. Whereas in open, you're looking to be big and dense.
yeah,
And that's pretty much it. How
yeah,
can I pose to look as big and as dense as possible?
yeah,
In classic, it's all about the ratios, it's
yeah.
all about the lines. It
Like
is an art.
flow.
Yes. And you need to be holding that, not just in a pose, but throughout every transition as well.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you need ridiculously difficult transitions, or like you need to be moonwalking across the stage, but you need to be holding
Yeah.
yourself in a way that even through those transitions, your midsection doesn't go, your waist is still really
Yeah.
tight, and you are still maintaining the condition and the bubble.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you've just like hit it on the head. Like ultimately it's not just about size. Like there's a lot to it, but the main things are kind of that like small waist, the flow to your physique, like muscle to match it. And there is kind of like it is an aesthetic look, if you are really kind of blocky and just like dense, like you're probably not classic. And if you are kind of almost too small for open bodybuilding, it's not just a gateway to, okay, I'll just be classic, because you'll probably just need to spend longer in off season, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I guess men's physique is kind of self-explanatory, isn't it? And I think
Maybe not to some though. I
true.
think I think we should dive into it. I think we should have let it have its moment.
Go on then.
Um Only because again, a lot of the time, how many people think, oh, it's just people who don't train legs,
Yeah, I know. It's really
right?
not that.
No. I mean, you actually still do, in my opinion, when you see someone on stage and they still obviously have trained legs and it's kind of like pushing against their shorts. I think that's like such a good look.
Yeah, same.
Um, like you are obviously want to make sure the shorts are like well fitted, that you're not like bursting out of them though.
Yeah.
But it is all about, actually, again, I'm gonna use the word bubble, because when you think, again, a great example here, I mean, I don't think he even can, I don't know, he eats loads of shit, doesn't he? That Gerald PCA
Oh yeah.
pro,
Yeah.
right? He could be insane, but I
Yeah.
just don't think he cares. um his waist is like
Tiny.
absolutely tiny, and
Yeah.
you do see a great proportion of kind of that ethnicity
Yeah.
being so successful within men's physique
Yeah.
because of the genetic potential,
Yeah.
and their waists are so small and
Tiny,
then
tight waist.
blow
And then I always
blow
think of
in it.
like Josh Croggan as well, for like, just like
Yes.
natural, like he's like really kind of like just perfect for the category, just so bubbly up top and then just into like
Yeah.
this tiny, tight waist, and just like really, really good developed like obliques and abs and things. And that kind of just really makes like a great men's physique competitor. And, you know,
Yeah.
like you said, I still think they need good legs. Like, you see, for example, like Reese Fit, when I always call him Reese Fit, that's
Yeah.
his Instagram. Like when he did men's physique, like he still had crazy big legs, and now
Jack
obviously he's
Eagle.
yeah, yeah,
Jack
exactly.
Eagle.
Like still have mad legs, but like just the
Mhm.
way they kind of, the shape and things. But then I always kind of run the joke of like, oh, just pull off the shorts if you've got big legs. And I think there definitely is some crossover. When you get
Yeah.
to that standard, and I think a men's
Mhm.
physique competitor like at the top level probably wouldn't look out of place in open, but maybe just not
Mhm.
as competitive.
And I think this is where the what you love comes into it for the
Yeah,
men's side,
yeah,
because not many men would love to pose in men's physique.
yeah,
And I'll say that with my chest,
yeah,
because it is a lot more kind of like relaxed and like almost flouncy, right?
yeah,
Where you're quite relaxed, where your arms are positioned. You're not like squeezing. It's very kind of like
yeah,
um you're rotating through the core, and it's almost a poster boy vibe. You
yeah,
do have to be a pretty, right?
yeah. It is.
You can't
It's
be coming on,
aesthetic.
yeah, you can't be coming on stage for men's physique and be like, have like a roided like look. You
Yeah,
know what I
you
mean? You have
can't.
to have a good set of hair,
Yeah,
nice smile,
yeah,
like you mentioned, like very aesthetic abs.
yeah.
You can't have like where you've torn it's something through deadlifting like 7 plates.
So
Like
true.
you've got to be very symmetrical, very poster boy,
Mm-hmm.
you
Cool.
know.
Yeah, no, very true. But yeah, I mean, so I guess, is there any more categories that you want to talk about? Is there anything?
I would say like we could like really quickly touch on fitness. Um but at the end of the day, if you're a gymnast, do it. That's it. Because
Honestly,
it actually
I feel bad saying this, but like I think it's it's almost the easiest ticket to the Olympia. Like if you can do gymnastics, fucking hell, you're a fitness IFBB pro.
yeah.
Like,
Because when it comes to the actual physique, it is, you know, when you think about PCA routines not being judged, like your routine within fitness, there is a very high percentage.
mm,
So your physique is actually not as important as if you
yeah,
were obviously saying like figure, etc. So you know, that's why I think some people do get a bit confused with results when it comes to fitness, but it's
yeah,
important to remember the actual kind of grading, the actual marking system.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, no,
Yeah,
I've actually
yeah.
really loved that.
I know. So to
That's,
summarize, do you think you
yes,
choose your category, or does your category choose you?
my category, I don't have one, so.
Just don't have a category.
Well, like definitely for me, it's I can't choose mine.
No, yeah, no, for sure. And
I
I
think
actually,
I think people can,
yeah, I
but
think ultimately, like, if you want to be in the top percentage, then your category chooses you. If you
Mhm.
want to do it for enjoyment, you can choose your category.
Yes, yeah. Wait,
Cool.
does that mean I'm not doing it for enjoyment?
You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
if I thought to myself, like, huh, I just want to be a wellness girly, then okay,
yeah,
like I could be a wellness girly, sure, but like,
yeah,
it wouldn't be a good one.
yeah. Okay, tell you what. Well, interesting then. I know that was a great way to finish, but I'm going to just ruin it.
That's
If you
fine.
did choose your category,
Yeah,
if you chose it genuinely, what
yeah,
would it be?
figure.
Would it? Nice.
Yeah. Do you know what? Like, for me, I think I just love the fact that it's kind of like a powerful femininity look. Like,
Yeah.
you're almost like, when I look at like the top level figure athletes, like, I'm like,
Hmm.
I love that it's so feminine but so powerful. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like, that is what I like. If I could just pick a look, that would be it. Even like,
Yeah.
I know obviously it's the one I fit best anyway, but like,
No,
it's
but
like the
that's why I wanted
perfect
to ask. It's
it's like
difficult.
the perfect like it's like I don't like kind of how I'm kind of thinking assisted in my head, but like how far women's bodybuilding takes like a feminine physique, it kind of almost runs the risk of being too much. But then
Mm,
I'm not a girly girl, so like I don't look at bikini athletes and be like, okay, like I wanna like but for me figure is like the perfect like middle ground. What about you?
mhm. Uh,
Women's bodybuilding.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
If I could do it,
yeah,
then I would. But
yeah.
I know like I'm so tall.
You're so tall. You're just
I'm
long. You
five
have
foot
long
eight.
limbs.
I'm 5'8", mate.
Yeah,
Like I will never. I know I will never. But
yeah.
that's okay. I'm not
That's
really
okay.
like. But I would. That would be the
The one,
category.
the choice. Yeah,
I think the one closest to that I could do is ANBF women's physique because
yeah,
it's no shoes.
yeah. Sorted.
So I
Category
know.
done.
Literally, that's the only thing I'm ever doing ever.
Nice.
Right, amazing though.
Cool. Enjoyed
So
that.
thank you so much, guys, for
No.
listening. Um,
Yeah. If people have made it this far, they're probably thinking these girls are obviously tapped in the head.
we started at 8 a.m. as well. Like
I know.
it was like an early one, but we're
Yeah.
both absolutely bouncing. It's push day, that's why, and it's up a day for you.
I no, mine's legs now. I took an extra rest day yesterday, and
Ah,
because my week was just like it was too much,
mad.
worked a
Yeah.
stupid amount of hours. So I was like,
Mhm.
do I cram in a 5 a.m. leg session yesterday, or do I full send it today? And I'm full sending it today.
Full send. That's what we love to hear. But if you did get to the end of this, please let us know your thoughts. We hope you enjoyed it. Share, like, comment, follow. Let us know. So we're putting a box up every single week for your opportunity to let us know about topics.
Yeah,
We've already got a list, but we want to hear from you how we can help, and if you've got any questions. But of course, if you do ever miss the box, just message us anyway,
yeah,
either on the page or individually. we'll always answer. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.